In 3, 2, 1.
7 things you probably didn't know you need to know. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Smart 7.
Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, the 18th of August, and it's Never Give Up Day. And a big happy birthday to Robert Redford, Andy Samberg, Hugh Edwards, and Edward Norton. The cost of living just keeps on rising as the Consumer Price Index measure of inflation has hit double digits. It's now at 10.1%, the highest in 40 years, while the Bank of England's target is 2%. Price rises for essentials like bread and milk are driving the increase and adding to pressures on household budgets. But the government doesn't plan to do anything about it until the new Prime Minister's been picked. Minister Kit Malthouse defended that position, but insisted help would come from September.
There's lots of work ongoing, A, to get ourselves in shape, but B, to promote and push out the current support schemes, which are pretty huge by our standards.
Labour wants more immediate action, proposing a freeze to the energy price cap, which is expected to go up in the autumn. But Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi says there's issues with the party's plans.
Their numbers are out on this, and they need to work out and be honest with the nation how they're going to pay for this.
Wednesday night saw Ofgem board member Christina Farnish quit over the regulator's timeline to recover supplier costs from consumer bills this winter, which she saw as unfair to customers. Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper, meanwhile, said she'd welcome an extension to the windfall tax on oil and gas companies to stop the situation getting even worse.
Loads of families just cannot afford that. People are going to be pushed into debt, into poverty, unable to pay their bills, unable to put food on the table. And that's why the Bank of England has also been forecasting inflation rising even higher as a result.
The government's now agreed to offer £100,000 in interim compensation to victims of the infected blood scandal. Thousands of people were given contaminated blood from America in the 70s and 80s and infected with HIV and hepatitis C. It's thought around 2,400 people died and has been dubbed the worst treatment disaster in NHS history. The payout will be made by the end of October as recommended by the inquiry, which is ongoing. But campaigners are unhappy that other relatives aren't recognised yet, and Kate Burt from the Haemophilia Society says the agreement just isn't good enough.
Although we very much welcome that this payment of £100,000 is going to the surviving infected and the bereaved partners, sadly, children who have lost parents and parents have lost children are not included.
Mayor of Greater Manchester and former Labour Health Secretary Andy Burnham gave evidence in the public inquiry. He says the government's done the right thing but hopes there'll be full reparation for the victims.
I believe that there is evidence that people were put at risk knowingly and weren't informed about the risks. In my judgment, there is a case for corporate manslaughter.
She voted to impeach Donald Trump and she's co-chair of the January the 6th committee, but Congresswoman Liz Cheney will be looking for a new job in November. The outspoken Republican was defeated in a primary for her seat in Wyoming in favour of Harriet Hageman, who has the backing of Mr. Trump. Liz says she'll do whatever it takes to make sure Donald Trump never becomes US president again. In a speech on Wednesday, she insisted that standing up to the former president was more important than her own political career.
2 years ago, I won this primary with 73% of the vote. I could easily have done the same again. The path was clear. But it would have required that I go along with President Trump's lie about the 2020 election. That was a path I could not and would not take.
If you wanted to speak to the Ministers for Health, Finance, Home Affairs, Treasury and Industry in Australia during the pandemic, then thankfully you'd only have needed to make one phone call. Former Prime Minister Scott Morrison's facing calls to step down from his position in Parliament after revelations that he secretly appointed himself to all 5 roles whilst he was also the country's Prime Minister. The ex-leader who lost the general election to Anthony Albanese has so far refused to resign and even defended the move, claiming the extra powers he gave himself were necessary during the COVID pandemic.
The fact that ministers were unaware of these things is actually proof of my lack of interference or intervention in any of their activities, and that I honoured the basis upon which I sought those powers because I was only ever going to use them in an emergency situation that would require that.
Still to come on the Smart 7, bad weather brings an early end to the opening day at Lord's, and Selena and Serena open up about mental fitness. Right after this. Welcome back.
England's cricketers are already under pressure in the first test against South Africa thanks to a fantastic bowling performance by the tourists. Heavy rain brought an early end to proceedings as Ben Stokes and his side finished the first day at Lords on 116 for 6, with only Ollie Pope scoring more than 20 runs. Former England captain Sir Andrew Strauss told Sky Sports he's a top-class young player.
When you look at it, the style of cricket England are trying to play at the moment, you need a number 3 who can play shots. You know, if the situation dictates, you need someone who can grab the game by the scruff of the neck and put pressure on the opposition. And Ollie Pope does that naturally.
Serena Williams and Selena Gomez have been discussing what taking care of their mental health means to them. Last week, the tennis star's own firm, Serena Ventures, announced it would give £5 million to the actress and singer's new mental health platform, Wondermind, which Selena described as only the beginning of their mission to destigmatise mental health. Williams, who previously joined forces with Prince Harry to talk about self-care, described how she'd regularly, subconsciously shut down for a day to put herself first.
I have serious boundaries, and I don't let anyone cross those boundaries with time, because for me it's so important to make sure every day I have like a period of like at least prioritizing what I need to do, and then when I'm turned off, I'm turned off.
Christina Ricci rejoins the Addams family for Tim Burton's upcoming mysterious comedy horror series Wednesday, but this time the title role goes to Jenny Ortega. Ritchie starred as Wednesday Addams in the 1990s franchise and pops up as a new character on the Supernatural Netflix show, which also stars Catherine Zeta-Jones as Morticia, Louis Guzman as Gomez and Gwendolyn Christie from Game of Thrones as the college principal. The official trailer's out and we're venturing into Wednesday's student years.
Finally, you will be among peers who understand you. Maybe you'll even make some friends.
Want to take a stab at being social? I do like stabbing.
This has been The Smart 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Have a great day.
Written, produced and published by Daft Doris.